Welcome to the DOGE Diaries, diving deep into government efficiency. A billion here, a billion there, right? Like that Dirksen quote, it adds up. This energy department audit, oof, it's a doozy.
Yeah, a billion in wasteful spending? That's not chump change, especially with a $35 trillion debt. It's like throwing pennies down a well, a very, very deep well.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's not just the amount, it's the how. Questioned, unsupported, and unresolved costs. It just reeks of, well, inefficiency, what DOGE is all about tackling.
I'm still skeptical. I mean, government inefficiency is like a hydra. You cut off one head, two more grow back. How's Musk going to fix that?
Well, look at those grants. Recipients not vetted, not eligible, foreign entanglements, double dipping. That's not rocket science to fix. That's basic oversight.
Right? But oversight takes manpower, resources, more bureaucracy to oversee the bureaucracy. It's a self-licking ice cream cone.
But see, that's where Musk and Ramaswamy come in. They're not looking to build more bureaucracy. It's about streamlining, cutting the fat. Remember, DOGE has a sunset clause. It's meant to eliminate itself.
A self-destructing government agency? That's a new one. So like a controlled burn of the red tape jungle?
Something like that. And those home energy rebates, $4 billion, ripe for fraud. Lax application process, lack of oversight. It's low-hanging fruit for improvement. Right there.
I'll grant you that. I mean, $7 million to a contractor for guaranteed energy savings without validation? Come on. That's just asking for trouble.
Exactly. DOGE is about finding these areas where money is just vanishing and bringing some accountability back into the system. It's about more than just cutting costs. It's about responsible spending, which, let's face it, isn't the government's forte, is it?
Well, that remains to be seen, but these Energy Department findings are concerning, to say the least. I do wonder what they'll uncover next, hopefully enough to justify the existence of a Department of Efficiency. Irony much?
So more on this DOGE idea. I'm looking at these headlines. Biden pardons, Rivian bailouts, tax debates. Doesn't this just scream for a department of, well, efficiency?
Maybe. But what exactly would this DOGE department do? Is it just Musk and Ramaswamy pointing fingers at perceived waste?
No, it's about systemic change. Look at that Rivian bailout editorial, throwing good money after bad. DOGE would ideally prevent that kind of misallocation of resources in the first place.
Prevent? How? By having Musk call up Biden and say, don't do that? I mean, come on. There are processes, committees.
And those processes are clearly broken. That's the whole point of DOGE. Streamlining, cutting red tape, actually evaluating these massive expenditures before they happen, not after, like with Solyndra.
Okay, so you're saying DOGE is like a preemptive strike force against government waste? A Department of No More Solyndras?
Exactly. Think of it like financial triage, identifying the bleeding, applying pressure where it's needed most. These editorials, they highlight the symptoms of a larger disease. Waste, inefficiency, it's endemic.
Right, endemic. But a new department? Isn't that just adding to the problem? More bureaucracy, more government?
But DOGE is designed to be temporary. Remember the sunset clause? It's meant to fix the system, then disappear, like a surgical strike against inefficiency, in and out.
A surgical strike? So Musk and Ramaswamy are the scalpels? I'm still not convinced. It sounds like a lot of wishful thinking, especially with all the political baggage that comes with both of them.
So this DOGE thing, it's supposed to self-destruct, like a time bomb for inefficiency? This July 4th, 2026 deadline, wow.
Yeah, Ramaswamy's quote about government projects needing expiry dates, it's something. And Musk's final step is to delete itself comment? Pretty bold. But is it realistic?
Well, they're aiming for $2 trillion in savings. That's a lot of zeros. But this whole sunset clause idea, it's intriguing. Almost like a kamikaze mission against red tape.
Kamikaze? A bit dramatic, don't you think? I mean, $2 trillion, sure, it's ambitious, but is it achievable? And this whole self-destruct thing, what happens if they don't achieve their goals by 2026? Do they just, poof, disappear?
I guess we'll see. But this article mentions prioritizing outcomes over, drawn-out bureaucracy, which, let's face it, is a big problem. I mean, ever try to deal with, say, the DMV?
Point taken. But the DMV isn't handling trillions of dollars. The scale here is different. And this article also highlights the potential downsides. Hasty decisions, dismantling essential services, it's a tightrope walk.
Oh, for sure. It's a massive gamble. I mean, something has to be done. The current system, it's clearly not working. Look at all these editorials, audits. The waste is staggering. Maybe a radical approach is what's needed. A shock to the system.
A shock to the system? Maybe. But a controlled demolition is more what they're aiming for. Whether they can pull it off, well, that's the $2 trillion question, isn't it?
So this DOGE thing, it's supposed to self-destruct by July 4th, 2026, like a planned obsolescence for government itself? Ramaswamy's quote about expiry dates is interesting.
Yeah, interesting is one word. I mean, the idea that a government agency has a built-in self-destruct button, it's unprecedented, but also kind of cool, right?
Cool, maybe, but effective? That's the $2 trillion question, literally. I mean, can they really achieve these ambitious goals in such a short time frame?
2 trillion? Ambitious is an understatement. It's a moonshot, especially considering the legal hurdles they're facing. That Richard Pierce quote, calling Musk and Ramaswamy utterly ignorant, ouch.
Yeah, that's got a sting. Utterly ignorant. I mean, navigating federal regulations is a minefield, right? It's not like launching a rocket or, building electric cars.
Exactly. And bringing Kalanick and Andreessen on board, while they're brilliant in their own right, it just adds to the perception of this whole thing being a Silicon Valley boys club trying to disrupt Washington.
Right? A bunch of tech bros taking on the federal behemoth, David versus Goliath, but with Teslas and algorithms instead of slingshots. But this whole sunset clause thing, I mean, if they actually pull it off, it would be huge.
Huge, yes. But what if they don't pull it off? What happens on July 5th, 2026? Does DOGE just vanish? And what about all the potential downsides? Hasty decisions, essential services dismantled, it's a risky proposition.
Totally. It's a gamble, a big one. But the current system is clearly broken, right? Look at all these articles, these reports about wasted taxpayer money. Maybe a radical approach, a tech-driven disruption is exactly what's needed.
Maybe. But disruption can be a double-edged sword. It can lead to innovation, but also to chaos. We'll have to wait and see if DOGE is a controlled demolition or a total implosion. And speaking of investments, that Bezos fund with a 7-9% yield? Now that's something I'd be interested in.
So, Pete Sessions met with Musk and Ramaswamy about DOGE. Sounds like a pretty important meeting, huh?
Yeah, getting the House GOP leadership involved. Speaker Johnson, Majority Leader Scalise, that's not nothing. Shows they're taking this seriously, at least.
Right? And Sessions' background, chairing that subcommittee on government operations, seems like he's been prepping for this DOGE role for a while.
Maybe. But talk is cheap. Let's see what actual changes they implement. This whole aim before we fire thing, we'll see.
Well, they're aiming for $2 trillion in savings, remember? That's a pretty big target. And this U.S.-Mexico Bilateral Issues Conference, interesting that Sessions brought up DOGE there, too.
Connecting DOGE to trade negotiations with Mexico? What's the angle there? Trying to show they're fiscally responsible to our trading partners, maybe?
Could be. Emphasizing efficiency as a driver in trade decisions makes sense, given the upcoming USMCA review in 2026, the same year DOGE is supposed to disappear.
Disappear? More like explode if they don't handle it carefully. This House Financial Services Committee hearing, bringing in tech and finance leaders, is that related to DOGE too, or just a coincidence?
I think it's related. This whole fintech discussion, enhancing access, lowering costs, transparency, that aligns with DOGE's goals, right? Streamlining, cutting red tape.
Maybe. Or maybe they're just trying to lay the groundwork for more deregulation, which could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. It's a complicated issue, for sure.
So, Pete Sessions meeting with Musk and Ramaswamy about DOGE, it's getting some serious traction, huh?
Yeah, and not just with them. Pulling in House GOP leadership, Speaker Johnson, Majority Leader Scalise. That's a power move.
Definitely. Sessions' background with government operations, almost like he's been training for this DOGE role, right?
Maybe, but let's see some action. Aim before we fire, sure, but where are the shots?
Well, $2 trillion in savings is the target, remember? And this U.S.-Mexico Bilateral Issues Conference, Sessions brought up DOGE there too?
DOGE and Mexico? What's the connection?
Maybe showing fiscal responsibility to trading partners. Makes sense with that USMCA review coming up in 26, right when DOGE is supposed to vanish.
Vanish or implode? This House Financial Services Committee hearing bringing in tech and finance leaders, is that DOGE related too?
I think so. Fintech, access, lower costs, transparency, it all lines up with DOGE's streamlining goals, no?
Maybe. Or maybe it's just deregulation, which, could be good or bad.
True. But back to Sessions. That Texas Insider video of him with Musk, worth a watch.
Oh yeah? I'll check it out. Any key takeaways?
Just reinforces their commitment to DOGE, I guess. And seeing those tweets from Texas Insider, they're definitely pushing the narrative. Building momentum.
Momentum, yeah. But is it towards real change or just hype? That's the question.